Hello, Internet and Dungeons & Dragons 5th Edition fans. I just wanted to do a follow-up review on the Dungeons & Dragons spell cards by Gale Force 9 for 5th Edition. The last review that I did had pretty popular results and people seemed to enjoy it, so I wanted to do a follow-up because some of the issues that I addressed in the last video actually weren't issues come closer inspection. And I also picked up the Cleric spell cards and the Bard spell cards, which came out a little bit later than the Paladin and Arcane ones that I already had. So I just wanted to see if there were any major changes between the newer versions and the later versions. So, let's start with... I guess I'll just start by saying, if you open up the Paladin or... or the Cleric or Bard spell cards... They're basically the same layout. Not sure if that'll come in focus there, but you can see you've got your title, your level, casting time, range, components, duration, and then all the spell text. And again, the back side of the card will just has a little symbol for the race, or the class rather, and the spell level. So, the Cleric, the newer cards suffer no difference from the original cards. One thing that I did mention previously, though, was an issue with not outlining concentration-based spells and ritual-based spells. Well, turns out, after closer inspection, I was wrong. Those actually are on these cards. My problem with that, though, is the fact that it took me that long to figure it out in the first place. It wasn't apparent at first glance. So, I'm going to try and get this close enough for you guys to be able to see. So, let's see there. That'll come into focus. See, it says first level divination. In the little parentheses there, you can see it says ritual. So, that's where, if the spell is a ritual spell, that's where it says what it is. So, those are denoted on the ritual-based cards. And as far as concentration-based, I'll bring this one back in again. Dispel Magic is a good example because it has both. If it'll come into focus here. See how the duration says up to 10 minutes? Any of the spells that are concentration based say up to X, up to 1 round, up to 1 minute, up to 10 minutes. So those are your concentration based spells up to 1 hour. I'm trying to find an example of a duration based spell that does not, I believe, aid. Yes, okay, so the spell Aid, for example, Aid here, that'll come into focus, just says 8 hours. So if it just has a time limit, it's whatever that time limit is. If it says up to, and then a time limit, then it is a concentration-based spell. So that was just more or less my big update, was to say that the things that I originally thought were really big issues were not big issues. Although I haven't combed through every single Cleric spell and every single Bard spell, someone in the chat on my other video mentioned that one of the Wizard spells on the Arcane, the big box of Arcane spells, that there was actually one spell missing. And upon closer inspection and looking through the Paladin spells, I noticed one was missing as well, the 5th level spell Destructive Wave, which is a Paladin only spell and one of their better spells, honestly, and also a Cleric spell if you're a Tempest Domain Cleric. It's just there is no card for it. So that's Paladins only have maybe 8 5th level spells, and they're just missing one out of here. So it's not the end all be all, but I can tell you one thing for sure after I've actually gotten playtime with these now. For me, I'm a really big D&D nerd. Like, when I get into D&D, I go hard. And I know my spells, and I know the casting times on my spells, and I have a pretty good idea what most spells do as a general rule. I'm a big fan of going and reading D&D forums and min-maxing and that kind of stuff, so I kind of have a pretty good handle on what's going on. As far as the rest of my group, though, I only have one seasoned Dungeons & Dragons player in my party, and even our DM is sort of newer to the whole DM scene. But the other 3 members of my party, one of them's brand new to Dungeons & Dragons, and the other 2 are they've only played in one other short-lived campaign that I ran myself not that long ago. The one's playing a fighter, so it doesn't really matter too much for him, but the other one's playing a cleric, and clerics are very heavily focused on the casting. Obviously, they always have been, but in this one, casting goes a long way. So these cards are huge for him. And the other one, who's brand new to Dungeons & Dragons, is playing a wizard. And as you know, in this, in Dungeons & Dragons in general, and 5th edition as well, wizards get a ton of spells, and they have the ability to unlock even more by copying things into their spellbook. So for someone that has limited knowledge of D&D and how it works, just to be able to have these set out on a table by spell level, and they can just go, oh, I prepared this one today, or even when they're looking to prepare their spells for the day, knowing into what kind of scenario we're going to be going into, oh, these are the spells, this is what they do, and they just go about it. In the time I was talking here, Ignatius Riley mentioned in the Arcane deck, Mislead, which is a 5th level spell, was missing. And he also commented the ink smeared on a couple of the spells in his set. I haven't had that in any of the playtime that I've had. The lamination seems pretty good. He mentioned that it was a thin sheen only. I think the lamination's good. These cards are pretty sturdy. But again, the big problem lies in I guess the big problem is missing spells, and I don't know how to go about doing that. I'm going to contact Gale Force 9 myself and just give them a heads up, and if I get any feedback, I'll make another video. But again, important news to disregard from the last video: concentration and ritual-based information is on the spell cards. Other than that, anything I would change with these? Not so much. My only other sort of complaint is that the Arcane deck, in my party, I have a wizard and a warlock, and for a little while I also had a sorcerer. So they share a lot of the same spells, and depending on the situation of the way your table is set up or how you're playing, that could be an issue. Because where people are set up and having to share spell cards, because a lot of the cantrips and the first level spells are pretty much shared equally between all 3 classes. Especially the lower level damage dealing spells, like up to 3rd level with Fireball and things like that. So they have to share their spells, but Bards don't. Bards get their own, and there's a lot of the spells you get in the Bard list are also in the Arcane list, with the exception of a few cards. But I don't know if Bards warranted their whole own separate spell card deck, whereas sorcerers, wizards, and warlocks have to use the same one. And this is also the most expensive of all the different decks, because there's so many cards. I mean, if you look at the comparison between just here, I'll put the cleric ones, I'll close this back up, and you can see clerics, look at the thickness difference. The Arcane one is huge, whereas the cleric and the bard ones, and I'm assuming the druid ones as well, which I don't have, are probably the same thickness, and the Paladin and Rangers are the same, thin little deck. So yeah, that pretty much sums it up. I also might have a short little review coming. I have both the Gale Force 9 Dungeon Master screen and the new Wizards of the Coast Dungeon Master screen. So I'll probably be doing a review on both of those, as well as I bought a ton of miniatures. You can see all the blister card packs from Reaper Minis, and they're really good high quality minis that I want to do a little review on, just in case those of you are looking to get different minis for your, whether it be Dungeons and Dragons or whatever your tabletop game of choice is. They have things that cover a wide variety of fantasy and sci-fi and things like that. So I'll be doing a review on those minis, and maybe even a short mini tutorial on painting, because this has been my first foray into minis and painting. Previously I was using Monopoly pieces and things like that. So just a little bit of info on that stuff as well. But if you guys like this video and you want to see more tabletop related stuff on my channel, I know I have a lot of Let's Plays and random assorted videos of you name it, including my new cooking show that is coming out every twice a month. But if you want to see more tabletop related things, maybe even videos or Let's Plays of us trying these out, or playing Dungeons and Dragons, or one of my many other tabletop games that I love. Just be sure to like and subscribe, leave a comment down below. Do you guys use these spell cards? Do you like them? Do you use a different method? Do you use possibly an app or some sort of other custom printed sheet? I've seen a lot of other cool things floating around the internet, custom spell card sheets made from PDFs that export from Excel, different apps for iOS or Android. If that's something you prefer, let us know in the comments, and I'll gladly come on and read it and talk to you guys. Just real quick on that same thing, do you find that electronic-based tabletops supplements and helping devices and things like that, do you find that they distract your party enough when you're playing? Electronic devices generally at my table lead people to start searching Facebook and downtime. Right now, Trivia Crack's a really big thing. People are all over that, which is distracting players at the table. And I can only do so much as a player because, you know, it's not, I want to play, but I don't want to be the jerk that's like, hey guys, put your phone away, let's play D&D. But it is what it is. So anyway, guys, thank you very much, and I'll see you next time.